Hey Genshin gamers, it has been a while since I've made one of these videos. I haven't been reacting to Genshin content because I haven't been making Genshin content. I felt a little bit disingenuous reacting to these trailers when I knew that I wasn't playing offline. I left Genshin over 8 months ago and I was burnt out, tired. Genshin felt more like homework than a really fun game to play. The community was fighting over rewards, wishes, and begging for quality of life changes 8 months ago. I am so glad Genshin has moved on from that. With all the recent Genshin drama going on, and so many opinions flying around, I figured what's one more voice in the mix? Chiming in on with my opinion of why I left Genshin and maybe why I might be coming back. I discovered Baldur's Gate 3 1 week before its full release in August and instantly fell in love with Baldur's Gate 3. There was player agency, dialogue choices mattered, and actually challenging combat. We all died to the brains in the first Nautiloid, right? Baldur's Gate 3 gave me newfound excitement for content creation and for gaming, and that wasn't something I had experienced in a very long time with Genshin. Almost 2 years of Hoyoverse gaming, because I did pick up Honkai Star Rail for a little while. I was streaming Genshin, my heart wasn't in it, and my content was really suffering from it. If Baldur's Gate 3 didn't come along, I genuinely don't know what my content would have looked like. Genshin, at its heart, is an open-world exploration gacha game that reached way beyond its initial gacha fanbase. It was perfect for casual gamers who wanted a bit of time to sink into a game and collect some fun characters along the way. This means that Hoyoverse had to make the game for this dominant part of the player base, not for people who enjoy a challenge or have hours to commit to playing the game on a daily basis. Hoyoverse then caters the game to the most casual of players, making bosses easier and practically hand-holding players throughout most of the game. Enter 2023's Game of the Year, Baldur's Gate 3. There's canon romance, there's lesbians, there's melanin, there's diversity, there's a drag queen, and there's a canon trans character. Genshin would never. Larian Studios wasn't afraid to make whatever they wanted, not catering the game to any particular fanbase. They made what they wanted. There was even built-in difficulty levels so everyone could cultivate their experience of what they wanted. With the game intros out of the way, there are 3 main reasons why I left Genshin, and alternatively, 3 things that I found what I was searching for in Baldur's Gate 3. These can be separated into 3 categories, though they are interconnected: endgame story and difficulty, player agency, and communication. Alright, section 1, endgame story / difficulty. Once you hit AR 55 in Genshin, and you have some semi-optimized builds for your characters, Genshin is not hard. Even in the early game of Genshin, you get handheld the whole way. Story-wise, the story is very compelling and has very complex depth of lore. A dissertation could be completely written on the Genshin Impact artifacts alone. I would argue, though, that the core gameplay loop works contrary to discovering the story elements. Grinding domains, clicking through substanceless event dialogue, only to miss the one nugget of lore that was dropped in that one event. The overarching story is compelling and will be completed in 3 to 4 years. Yikes. My first playthrough of Baldur's Gate 3 took me a near 120 hours plus to complete, and the story payoff was insane. There were generally 4 points along the way in the story that I cried my eyes out. Battles felt epic and tactical, and that failure was a genuine possibility. And it was. I failed multiple times. A failure would result in the story taking an entirely different new route with a different set of repercussions. I played in balanced mode, so that was kind of the middle of the road difficulty, with some battles generally taking 3 tries before succeeding. They recently listened to the community and added a 4th mode, honor mode, which you get 1 life, and if your party dies, your journey is over. Could you imagine that in Genshin? I think that would be a bad idea, to be honest, though. If your party died and that run in Teyvat was over. The main takeaway in this section here is that there are difficulty levels for everyone, and an option for any kind of gamer in Baldur's Gate 3. The story has a very final payoff based on your decisions throughout the over 120 hours you invest in it. I've never seen the same endgame twice, and I've watched countless content creators play through it. Number 2 is player agency or choice, which is an important aspect to any game. And it does exist in some forms in Genshin, but not in any meaningful manner. Genshin and Hoyoverse has its story to tell, and that's totally fine, but don't expect your dialogue choices to matter. For character builds, there's the best artifact loadout for a particular character, which you have to grind to RNGesus to get the right stat and substats. And then you have to pray to Zhongli to make sure you roll the right substat bonuses. When I was farming for Eula, it took me a month to get one good artifact. One! I was done with the repetitive domain grinding. It's clear that with Genshin and the average player sticking around for only a year, player retention isn't their main goal. Baldur's Gate 3, on the other hand, it becomes abundantly clear in the first few scenes of Baldur's Gate 3 that your choices matter. You can be the good guy or the bad guy, it's all up to you. And if you want that Minthussy. There are so many almost overwhelming directions that you can take your Tav. That's your main character. I do realize that Genshin and Baldur's Gate 3 are vastly different genres, and I will touch on this later. But Baldur's Gate 3 had everything I was searching for. The third reason why I left Genshin was communication. Hoyoverse has let's call it a distinct communication style. It's devoid of any real personality and engagement with the community, a purely informational stream of communication. Players can complete surveys at the end of patches, but to what end does Hoyoverse actually listen? Their most compelling form of communication is right here on YouTube, in the form of trailers and teasers. Their livestream patches also garner attention and create hype and communicate effectively. However, it's very clearly a one-way communication style. Hoyoverse communicates their intent to the player base, and that is the extent of that. While this doesn't really impact the day-to-day casual player, over time, Hoyoverse just optimizes the game for the most casual of players, and ignores calls from more experienced Genshin players for quality of life changes, challenging end-of-game content, or just a new character with some melanin. Come on, Hoyo, like, please. Larian Studios, on the other hand, the developers of Baldur's Gate 3, have a very different communication style. The Baldur's Gate 3 community has gotten angry before. Case in point is over His Majesty. For the uninitiated, a hairless cat via way of a bug. You can find this beloved cat in Act 2 of Baldur's Gate 3. Larian Studios identified his hairlessness as a bug and gave him his intended hair back, much to the community's great anger. In a jestful hotfix patch, Larian Studios announced that they shaved His Majesty and gave us back his most righteous form. This is just one of many ways and examples of how Larian Studios handles community feedback. I mean, the devs even released a patch, literally while they won Game of the Year. For me, the takeaway here is kind of jaded. Genshin prints money. They have no reason to listen to the minority section of the critical fan base. Larian, on the other hand, while you buy Baldur's Gate 3 as a one-time payment, which is disrupting the gaming industry, by the way, clearly listens and values feedback. Alright, if you've watched this far, you're probably thinking if you don't play Baldur's Gate 3, if you're just playing Genshin, you're like, so what? We get it, you hate Genshin. I'm just gonna add you to the other Genshin creators that make content just by shitting on Genshin. But that wasn't really the intent of this video, because I'm actually coming back to Genshin. I'm going to start playing Genshin again, and I want to play Genshin again. With my time away from Genshin, I look back at the time I spent playing so fondly. When I saw the very first statue of Seven and I unlocked it, I was so excited that after recruiting Kaya and Lisa in their domains, I was ready to get D-Luke at the end of that domain, only to have my hopes dashed. I remember cresting over the hills of Mondstadt and trudging my way through Liyue, realizing that my characters for the very first time were poorly built. Or finally looking over Liyue Harbor and looking on in wonder during my very first Lantern Rite Festival. I genuinely cried and was moved during Yunjin's opera, telling the story of Shenhe's journey. I remember feeling so small when Raiden Shogun was first stepping towards the Traveler for the very first time.
Capable of using elemental energy without a fission. You are an exception, it appears.
Or later on in the Inazuma storyline when Kazuha activated his friend's vision to save us.
There will always be those who dare to brave the lightning's glow.
It's those moments that I hold on to most dearly, not the domain grinding or trying to complete the event 100% before the time was up, like homework. So I think it's time to return to Teyvat, but this time I don't want to do the daily grind. I'm done trying to get 40 CV artifacts. I think it's time to come back as a filthy casual and enjoy the game for what it is and not lament what it's not. Hey, if you've made it this far, this is the end of the video. If you want to stick around, make sure to like and subscribe. I'm going to be posting Baldur's Gate 3 content. I'm going to be posting Genshin content. I'm going to try to find a good hybrid of both. But until the next video, I'll see you guys in the YouTube shorts. Bye!